This just in, Shamans, Warlocks, Warriors have been Giga buffed and Death Knight's finally been nerfed. Is your spec safe? Is your class ready to be mained in 11.2? Welcome back to Marcelian&Flame, and today we're reviewing the recent class buffs and nerfs that have just been announced less than a day ago, depending on when you actually see this. See exactly where the numbers sit in the new Season 3 upcoming in just a couple of weeks. So let's hit it off with the first on the list, which is some revised buffs. First, Balanced Druid has had everything buffed by 8% since it has been nerfed quite severely, quite strongly just 2 weeks ago, and people have been pointing it out. Bro, this is too much. Bro listened, and now balance is buffed once again. To be fair, the main issue with balance was that the tier sets were just astronomically strong, and this is just buffing the base kit, which is way better than having to hinge the entirety of this spec's validity on just the strength of the tier set, because once it goes away, you're down in the shitter. Also, with it, Monk has also been buffed, particularly Windwalker Shadow Pan. The 4-set bonus now causes flurry strikes to trigger every 120 energy spent during Storm Wrath and Fire, previously was 150, and all damage has been increased to Windwalker. This is great news since Windwalker has been kind of in the up and downs in the last couple of months, specifically starting with the Season 2, where it was proclaimed to be the best raid spec, subsequently nerfed after the race roll first because only top raiders can enjoy this spec, need I remind you. So now we're seeing more buffs coming to it. Hopefully these translate into Mythic Plus, because Windwalker has ended up being the probably worst Mythic Plus spec in Season 2, judging by some statistics. Moving on to Death Knight. With the Rider of the Apocalypse, undeath damage has been reduced by 20% after it's been buffed for 3 consecutive weeks. Alright. Reaper's Mark will no longer automatically explode below 5% health. Reaper's Mark will now instead travel to the nearest enemy when the affected target dies. It's just great mechanics. For Unholy specifically, the 4-set bonus White Mane's epidemic damage has been reduced by 25%, and for Frost, Trollbane's Icy Fury damage reduced by 30%, and the 4-set bonus Trollbane's Frost Scythe damage also been reduced by 20%. I'm pretty sure that the majority of the Frost Death Knight issues in terms of damage has been with Deathbringer, but it's not like I want to see this nerfed into the ground. I just hope that other specs are just buffed to kind of meet the same expectations. With Sandlane, we have the 2-set bonus addressed, now extends the duration of your diseases on your main target by 4 additional seconds, previously was 3, so a buff. And the 4-set bonus increases damage of Infliction of Sorrow by 35%, previously was 50%. So on Earth, I'm guessing this is all just to tune the hero talents and the tier sets respectively in tune with each other. Let's go on. Blood, all ability damage increased by 8%. Tanks are getting damage. Who would have thought? Now you don't have to worry about losing aggro to everything. For Frost Death Knights, there we go. All ability damage has been reduced by 3%. Frostbane's damage increased by 15% since I feel like this has just been incredibly underwhelming. Howling Blade's damage now scales with Mastery since this was almost a dead talent. Murderous Efficiency now rolls for an additional time when consuming 2 Killing Machine procs with Killing Streak. I'm too dumb to understand what this means, but this sounds like it's a good thing for Frost Death Knight. And fixed an issue causing free obliterates and frost scythes to consume 8 runic power under the effect of empowered rune weapon during obliteration. So that's great as well to kind of match everything properly to its tooltip. And last but not least, Unholy, the war effect of Rune of the Apocalypse now correctly increases all damage taken from Death Knight by 4% per stack. Dude, I feel like these have been added in Shadowlands and we haven't used them at all almost ever, so I would be excited to live in a world where Death Knight has just more rune forging options, since that's kind of a core part of its fantasy, that you're using a runed blade, but you've been using just Fallen Crusader for 17 years. Demon Hunter Vengeance has had all of its damage increased by 8% as well, also a tank that has been suffering with damage output. Fell Blood, the Mastery, effectiveness has been reduced by 17%. Now I'm not sure what this is supposedly going to address. Is it the armor gain from your Mastery? Is it the attack power gain from your Mastery? It would be weird. Maybe they want to make mastery a little bit less relevant. It beats me. I'm guessing much better, smarter Vengeance Demon Hunters would know the answer to that question. Also, not just balance being buffed this time around. For Feral, all ability damage increased by 8%. Yay, cats! And for Guardian Druid, all ability damage increased by 12%. Simple, but effective. We don't need like 10 paragraphs of tuning notes. Just give us a flat aura buff, and this is exactly what Druid is getting. Moving on to Evoker, for Chrono Warden, the Force bonus now additionally causes Temporal Burst to increase the damage and healing of essence abilities by 30%. And for Scale Commander, Bombardment damage is now properly increased by Might of the Black Dragonflight, Melt Armor, and other damage buffs even when triggered by another player. For Augmentation, all damage increased by 5%, and for Devastation, all damage increased by 3%, Pyre damage increased by 20%, Firestorm damage increased by 20%. These are very, very big buffs. Now, of course, I'm not a professional Devastation player, but I have played Devastation in dungeons, and I was doing quite a bit of AoE damage. Single target damage is probably where I was lacking a little bit, but that's probably because I was playing the Mythic plus Flame Shaper build, which maybe isn't supposed to do a lot of single target damage. I'm not really sure Devastation needed these buffs, but to be fair, I kind of want to live in a world where I can see Devastations actually be relevant in the meta, since it's fun to see them go into groups, push high keys, and die to like a tick of a dot. Maybe then they will be tanky as well. Moving on to Hunter. Very sad news for Hunter, for me at the very least. With Dark Ranger Beast Mastery, the Bell Tolls has been updated. Damage bonus increased to 6%, was 4%, this is good. But Phantom Pain has been updated. Damage bonus increased to 30%, was 20%. Wait, this is also still good. I love Dark Ranger Beast Mastery. Oh, this is where I've been sad reading this, I remember. Marksmanship Black Arrow damage has been reduced by 8%. I think this was one of the premier ways to play Marksmanship on the PTR. I was going to be very hopeful to see Dark Ranger actually being played in Mythic Plus, since I've just been seeing Sentinel for almost a whole year now. So I hope this doesn't necessarily kill Dark Ranger Marksmanship entirely. Okay, we're moving to Pack Leader Beast Mastery. Better Together has been updated. Dire Frenzy attack speed bonus reduced to 3%, was 4%. And pet damage bonus reduced to 3%, was 5%. And the Forced bonus Stampede damage reduced by 20%. Probably to nobody's surprise, Beast Mastery was crushing it right now, and having most of its damage just locked into the Forced bonus that has been nerfed for the second time, I believe, right now, was a little bit weird considering that it's all passive, but it's Stampede. It's not just like any passive, right? So it was nice to see Stampede actually do damage, especially since it has such a strong visual for Beast Mastery. So I'm very conflicted as to how to feel about this. I don't necessarily want Beast Mastery to be overpowered, or at least way more overpowered than any other spec deserves. And I don't necessarily like to see Beast Mastery having all of its damage baked into something passive that hardly ever matters based off of what you do in your rotation. But it's Stampede. It's Stampede. Sentinel. For the 2-step bonus, Boon of Elune, aim shot damage bonus reduced to 20%, was 30%. Oh, okay, so we're getting nerfs across the board. And the Forced bonus, Sentinel damage bonus reduced to 20%, was 25%. Now, this is not very clear if it's just for marksmanship or if it's for both survival and marksmanship. Clearly, the 2-step bonus is nerfed only for marksmanship, but the Forced might be nerfed for survival as well, if we read this correctly, and I don't think survival needs nerfs. But maybe this just applies to mastery and we're just data mining it maybe a little bit incomplete or a little bit too broad. And last, for the Hunter, Beast Mastery, Killer Instinct has been updated. Now increases kill command damage by 8 and 16%. Previously was 6 and 10%. And all damage dealt reduced by 5%. Just overall balances across the board. 5% damage nerfs is not too little, considering that the tier sets have also been nerfed. So if you just see 5% and you're thinking that that's all Beast Mastery is getting, don't worry, that's not. Obviously, it's getting a lot more nerfs from the tier set as well. I'm pretty sure the True Shot Lodge community already has maybe some maths done already to see how much this amounts to. Mage for Frostfire Fire. Frostfire burst damage increased by 50%. I was doing tank damage with this hero talent, by the way. Excess Frost now casts Ice Nova at 200% effectiveness, was 150. Mana Forge Omega 2-set bonus, Ignite damage bonus increased to 75%, previously was 50. Frostfire Bolt damage bonus increased to 8%, was 5 before. Frostfire Burst, Ice Nova, and Comet Storm damage bonus increased to 15%, previously was 10%. And for Frost Mage, the 2-set bonus Ignite effectiveness has been reduced to 25%, previously was 30%. And we have developer notes for Fire, because if you remember, Fire has been buffed, and it only lasted for 1 week. Because of course it did, because you cannot have Fire do good damage for more than a week. But I digress, personal feelings aside, the devs are going to say Fire, particularly Sun Fury, has been overperforming since the last tuning pass. We'd like Fire's damage spells to continue to hit hard, so we're opting to reduce Ignite's damage instead. The Ignite damage from the Mastery has been reduced by 10%. Not only that, Controlled Destruction has also been updated. Ignite damage bonus reduced to 0.3% per stack, previously was 0.5%, and Meteor damage increased by 20% to maybe offset this, at least in AoE. Now, of course, I can only take this a little bit biased, so I'm hoping that the numbers that the devs have is pretty fair, since I've been through this roller coaster with Fire Mage before, and it is one of my main alts that I want to play next season, and seeing Sun Fury nerfed is very depressing, considering that I really didn't see Fire Mages do more damage than Frost Death Knights last week, but maybe I haven't played with good enough Fire Mages that can pull all of its rabbits out of its hat. So it's a pretty big nerf, but I'm hoping it will all be fine in the end. And now we're moving to Paladin. For the Herald of the Sun, fixed an issue that caused Downlight's tooltip to display that it granted 6 stacks of Downlight instead of the intended 2, so nothing actually changed. And for Holy Paladin, Pillars of Light, Beacon of Virtue, healing has been increased by 25%. That's it. That's all you get. I hope you weren't hoping for more than this. Just go back to playing Discipline Priest, okay? Speaking of Priest, but not really Discipline, for Shadow, Mind Blast damage has been increased by 30%, and this does not apply to Void Blast, since that would have been my first question. Mind Flame Insanity damage increased by 20%, Halo damage increased by 30%. Psychic Link now causes direct damage to inflict 40% of their damage on all other targets afflicted by Vampiric Touch, was 35%. And Insidious Ire now increases damage dealt by 10 and 20%, previously was 20 and 40%, so this talent has been gutted by 50%. From the looks of it, this sounds like Void Weaver has kind of been nerfed for Priest, so you're probably going to be playing more Archon, or at least the intended direction of these nerfs is to more balance these two hero talents, but we're gonna have to test it to see the numbers in the end. Shaman, oh boys, hope you're sitting down and you're rejoicing, because this is good stuff. For Farseer Elemental in particular, Ancestor Chain Lightning damage has been increased by 40%, quite a sizable chunk. For Totemic Enhancement, the bugs that have been pointed out very aggressively this week, thankfully, have been addressed. Fixed an issue that caused the Mana Forge Forced bonus to put Lava Lash on cooldown from the additional Echo cast. Wow. Some of these bugs, I cannot believe they actually existed in the game. Fixed an issue that caused the Mana Forge 2-set bonus to cast Primordial Storm at 100% effectiveness from the instead intended 200%. Fixed an issue that caused the Primordial Storm cast by the 2-set bonus, to benefit from Maelstrom Weapon. So they're kind of just fixing all of the bugs that Totemic had, from my understanding, for the entirety of the PTR cycle. So it's great that now that we're getting closer and closer to the release, I think we're like 2 weeks away, we're getting all of this fixed. And for Elemental, there we go, Christmas has arrived. Elemental Blast damage increased by 25%. Lightning Bolt damage increased by 35%. Lava Burst damage increased by 35%. Frost Shock damage increased by 50%. Earthen Rage damage increased by 35%. Earth Shock damage increased by 25%. Ice Fury damage increased by 35%. Single target damage, you asked? There you have it. You now can blast bosses. And for enhancement, yet another fix. There was an issue causing Thorium's Invocation to sometimes cast Lightning Bolt or Chain Lightning with 10 Maelstrom Weapon instead of 5 Maelstrom Weapon. Moving on to Warlock. Oh, you Demonology Warlocks, you thought that you got buffed when I said it a minute ago, and that's not because I was wrong, because I kind of confused Warlock with another class, but that is because you were a fool! The 2-set bonus has been adjusted. Eye Blast damage reduced by 45%. Wicked Cleave damage reduced by 20%. Chaos Salvo damage reduced by 20%. Fell Seeker damage reduced by 20%. Damn! Bro, I swear, similar to Shadow Priest, I feel like they just buffed these exact spells like about 2 weeks ago, maybe by even more than 20%. So it feels like we're just going back and forth at this point. However, for Affliction, Unstable Affliction damage increased by 35. Summon Dark Lair damage increased by 35. Falconer's Malignancy now causes Malefic Rapture to deal 80% increased damage to targets suffering from Unstable Affliction. Previously was 40. These are sizable buffs to Affliction at this point, I believe. And it's all addressing, from what I can tell, single target damage. I guess Dark Lair kind of affects AoE as well, maybe a little bit. But Dark Lair having more damage has been something that I personally pointed out as a problem with Affliction when we ranked it really low the other day. So I'm happy to see that this is happening, and hopefully maybe Affliction can change some meta compositions going into Season 3. Maybe we'll finally have a Warlock in the tier. Now, for Warrior, Arms, all ability damage increased by 5%, and for Fury, all ability damage increased by 5% flat out. I think pretty much every warrior out there is rejoicing because this has been a long time coming now. I'm pretty sure that Fury should have been getting a little bit more than Arms at this point, but I'm not mad. At least they're getting buffs and you can actually play them without feeling like you're dragging your team down. All in all, this week has been pretty good in terms of all of the buffs and nerfs that classes have been getting. They've been addressing almost entirely the classes that the community has also been addressing, whether they needed nerfs or they needed buffs. And it's great to see that either they're listening to feedback or they have their internal testing as well that actually functions really well. But like I mentioned, this is not the end of it. We're probably going to see at least one more tuning pass with the Season 3. But if you just want to know what is the most fun spec to play, at least range DPS, so when it comes to just approaching the new raid and the new dungeons, we have a video on it right here where I rank them based off of what I believe is the most fun and not the most damage, but I'm talking about fun. And maybe you agree, and if you don't, you let us know in the comments, won't you? Have a good one.